Hello.
Hello, sirs.
How are you doing?
I'm alive. That's half we can do.
Half the battle. That's what they used to say on G.I. Joe. Living is half the battle.
Mr. Joe, I got the cancer. Living's half the battle, kid. Shut up.
Swamp Thing TV series.
Hey guys.
There he is.
Hello there. Are you excited?
Yeah, I heard him.
What?
I don't know. Even my audio went wonky there for a second. This is Sean Keenan dialing in from the 1940s.
Oh, there you are. Hold on a minute because I've got to... Can you call me back in like a minute?
Yeah.
Hang up on me and call me in like a minute.
Right. I think I'm probably going to hang up on everyone, but we'll do it.
Okay. Hello.
Did we catch you like 3/4 burp?
Yeah.
Nice.
Once out of his swampy domain, the Shrek must free the lovely Princess Fiona from a lifelong banishment atop a castle tower.
Oh, yeah. Hey, well, that sounds pretty darn good.
Yeah, I'm watching the press coverage of my son's debut here.
Fiona came from bonding with her daughter.
Really happy that she got this role. Trying things together and spend a lot of time together while all the boys of the family are doing baseball. We just found so much joy with this group.
A lot of singing around the house, I presume?
Yes, singing around the house, singing.
He won't stop.
Shrek musical, I don't know how many times.
No matter how much we plead.
Played by a 10-piece orchestra whimsical. Throw in your favorite fairy tale character and things are indeed looking up in Dubai. Cody Cavalier, WSAZ News Channel 3, Huntington.
Shrek, Fiona, and the whole gang from Heart are at it again tonight and Sunday at Ritter Park. Gates open at 7.
Okay,
Showtime is 8:30. Your picnic.
There we go.
It's the whole gang. Oh, boy.
So when did you see the movie?
Do what now?
When did you go see the movie?
Friday, but just barely.
Just barely on Friday?
Well, yeah, because I had to go to work, but I went to work. I had to be at work at like 6 or 5 rather. And the first movie theater that I went to, I thought, oh, I'll just go to the RPX here. You know, nobody's buying tickets at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
For $15. And I looked at the seating chart. It wasn't even a fourth filled, right? And it's, 8 minutes before the show. I go up to get my ticket. He's just like, nah, man, can't let you do it. What? Now, this isn't where I go. This isn't where I work. But he goes, hey, man, well, can't let you do it. I'm just like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there's all those seats open. Nobody's going in there. I'm going to come here and then buy some stuff and everything, and, you'll have some money in your pocket. So, nah, I can't let you do it. You can come back on Monday. I'm like, well, what's Monday going to do for me? Nothing.
They really didn't want you to see the movie, huh?
I guess not. So I busted over to work, and the way that it just learned out, because I was just like, if I can do this, it will be just under the gun. So I even brought in my shirt for work, and I'm in the theater, and I'm there, and the last Incredibles 2 comes up on the screen, and I have already put the shirt on. I'm walking out and clock in immediately. Right, exactly on time. It was pretty unbelievable.
Oh, man. Yeah, I saw it yesterday. My family all went and saw it like early Friday while I was still at work. Well, that doesn't work out.
We love you, Daddy. We'd rather see things without you.
Yeah, so there I am. I had to force at least one kid to go with me. I wasn't going to go see it by myself.
Hey, guys.
There it is.
Mo better.
There we go.
Did you see that Incredibles movie yet, Sean?
I did. I saw Incredibles 2 today with my oldest daughter, who I never see ever, and it was great.
Cool. I'm glad, man. Sounds good.
Yeah, I think they forgot today was Father's Day because they did not have enough people on staff to work today. But I got a little bit of bread out of it, so that's not, too
Either
shabby.
you guys go see Superfly?
I will be going to see dude. That
Now,
thing.
is that like a superhero movie, or is that about Jimmy Snuka? What's the point of that?
Yes, just exactly. It's about Jimmy Superfly Snuka. No, it that movie was putting. They were advertising for work in Atlanta not 4 months ago. So
It's already out.
like that thing is. I don't know what the deal is, but that sucker was so fast tracked and put through there. It can't be good.
Do you know anything about the director?
He's a hip hop dude, from my understanding. But I mean, people talk about him, but then again, it also feels like they're talking about like some sort of personality that like.
I didn't know if it was a real person or not. I just saw Director X, and I didn't know if that's like somebody doesn't want you to know who they are or what.
I think by and large, with that kind of stuff, it's more of like him and McGee and whoever. If you got a funky name, that it tells me you may be lacking in the talent department to some degree or another.
Yeah, that's why my directorial name is MXG.
MXG, the additive, the additive to the movie. That's awesome. It's an awesome additive. Isn't it?
No MXGs were harmed in the making of this movie.
Yeah. Well, so
A long outdoor theater weekend, like with the sun beating down. I'm a little tired.
oh
this
my
weekend.
gosh, yeah, I
I
forgot
bet.
your stuff was outdoors as well. Oh my god.
At least it's only for a month.
How'd he do?
Oh, he did great, man. I was totally shocked at how good he was with his solos. He gets to pretty much sing "I Can't Wait to Be King" and a big part in Hakuna Matata. So it was amazing.
I was about to say, I knew that'd be probably the big number right there, and like that's always one that's just like it's a great number, and it's because it's so sort of like it's that great musical flashiness to it that's so good.
Yep.
I love it.
He's 10 years old, man, and he's doing amazing. And I guess like local community outdoor theater is like TV and movies, where all these kids that look really young, and he's telling me, oh yeah, that girl, she's 15, that guy's 13, and they're all like as small as my son.
Oh, it's all because of the cigarettes and booze and coffee.
Yeah.
Keeps them short, keeps them tiny, keeps them employed.
It's the jazz shoes that makes them short. Do you have any jazz shoes, Sean?
No, I don't.
I'm thinking about getting some. I didn't know those were a thing.
The
until recently.
Adidas jazz shoe.
Just so you can go tippa-tappa wherever you walk.
Oh, yeah, man. I noticed, and all the kids had jazz shoes except for mine.
Well, I'm done tappa, and I don't know. So good. I gotta break out some of those box sets.
Yeah, but I was proud, man, that 3 swords for my extensive toy sword collection were used as props in Shrek the Musical. There was a call out for swords, and I was able to answer that call like above and beyond.
Fear not, fair theater goers, for I am here with a bevy of arms for you to choose from.
With swords.
Baskin, the holy moly, what a...
Yeah, I was waiting for him to say, okay, thank goodness you came through with the swords. Now we need somebody with some back issues of comics we can use.
Now, this feels like it's wrong.
What, swords?
It's like, it's so high. If you were to venture a guess, I don't know if you've seen it or not, do you know what Incredibles 2 is estimated to have made this weekend?
I'm going to guess about 180 million.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, then both of you a-holes looked, because that's exactly the number. There's no way they could be so dead nuts on.
It was damn near impossible to get seats in Charlotte this weekend.
It was unbelievable. I mean, and because we're one of the theaters that doesn't have pre-sold seats or anything, so. And, of course, we still got people coming back, like, sitting in the front row going, I can't see them. Like, well, good luck finding another thing anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because it was not going to be a thing.
That's why I always get to the theater exactly 2 hours and 15 minutes early.
Boy.
Hey, you sound like some of the people that like try to get through. It was like the first show today started at like 11:30.
Yeah.
And at 10:30, well, but at 10:45, it maybe. I got a guy, bust in the door here, like, hey, what's going on? Can I get a ticket? It's just like, and then of course the show that he wanted was like 1 p.m. It's like, why are you here? Leave. Just leave me alone.
Got to get that seat on the very end in the 17th row. That's my seat.
Oh, yeah. And these are the weirdos that go through and they're like, oh, I got to get my seat. But their seat's like, in a really odd spot. It's like back all the way back into the left. Huh?
Yeah.
That's the seat you wanted? I'm sure that would have been wide open. That's not, I don't know why. Weird.
It's like the seat closest to the fire exit, just in case.
There are some theaters I have to strategically sit a lot closer than normal to be able to get the exit signs out because they're so bright out of my periph. I can't do it. Drives me bonkers. They should be put at about 1/4 of their brightness, and you'd still see it plenty well. But it's ridiculous. These are the things I consume my life with. Man, oh man. Yeah, I don't think Okay, so next week, looking like Luke Cage.
Oh, wow, that's next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't be around next week.
We won't want you around. No, wait a minute, that's not true at all. You know that.
That's not true.
It's an utter lie. We were funning.
When does Preacher start? Is it this weekend?
It starts 1 week from today.
Correct.
Week from today.
Yeah, boy.
So earliest I'll be able to record anything for Preacher will be Tuesday.
Okay.
But if you guys want to go ahead and record something, I can give you the login information to post it, Adam.
Okay. That's gonna honestly, I think this is gonna be the biggest hump this season is getting everybody together and hoping that we can make it happen. But luckily, there's enough of us too to where if one or even two of us aren't there, it's not the end of the world.
Or is it?
Dun dun dun. That's a good insider there, Bruce. I like that.
Oh man.
Oh, so I'm gonna mention it in the show. Well, I'll mention it later. No need for this. No need to spoil that now.
Well, I'm going to mention that for the Shrek the Musical, they have the gingerbread man, Gingy, from the movie.
Now, that seems a little racist, but let's go on.
Yeah. Well, they have a puppet. They have a puppet gingerbread man that they use as Gingy in Shrek the Musical. And the whole time I'm watching, I'm thinking, okay, so in a month, this musical is over and the stage is available and there's some summertime left. If I get with the puppeteer, there's always a chance I could do a musical live action stage adaptation of Gingerbread Man, because 90% of the job is the puppet, which I would already have. All I have to do is get old Gary Busey online and boom, we're there.
I don't know that he's going to be that hard of a get.
I just like the concept. I mean, that really sounds like what's the guy that made Waiting for Guffman and Best in Show?
Christopher Guest.
Yeah, that's like the idea of a Christopher Guest mockumentary is the community production of Gingerbread Man. Or maybe amazing. That would fit in the Rushmore sequel or something. But I think I now have my white whale I'm chasing. I want to get that puppet and convince the Huntington Parks and Rec to let me do a stage production of Gingerbread Man.
What a way to set your sights on something bizarrely odd, and it's one of the things that you're like, well, no one else on God's green earth would have thought that's a good idea. That's what I want to do. That's a 1 in a million. I'll take it.
And we already got the puppet, so
we're two puppets.
all I got to do is slap together some orchestral music, a few solo songs.
Yeah. Okay. So it's all. So you're going all musical.
Well, it's a stage production and community theater. I mean, nobody is going for the drama.
We want some singing and some dancing.
Ginger Dead Man, the musical.
What did you think of? What did you think you were gonna get? It's the subtitle.
Some pastries to die for. Ooh, that's a good tagline.
Who can put that? Yeah, that's on the poster. That's absolutely on the poster. All right, let me see if I can do this.
They're doing Mamma Mia next year.
Which one of the kids is going to get pregnant?
All of them. Is that part of Mamma Mia? I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's all about a chick who doesn't know which one of these dudes knocked her up.
Oh, it's kind of like My Two Dads.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's My Two Dads plus one.
Throwing a little Greg Reiser, a little Paul Evigan. Wait, I got that backwards. Little Paul Reiser, little Greg Evigan. I'm down for it. Little, what's her name? Stacy Keenan.
I don't remember.
Kind of surprised there hasn't been a Friday the 13th stage play, like musical.
They've done Evil Dead.
Yeah, so why not? Kind of like, Friday the 13th Part 3. You want to skip the first couple. They're not really stage worthy.
Yeah, there's a yeah. I don't see how that's impossible.
That seems like one of those properties, though, where because they got it, I mean, Friday the 13th is one of those infamous properties where, like, the guy sold the Friday the 13th rights for something ridiculous, like $800.
Well, they're having the video game itself is actually having a very difficult time right now on account of that particular lawsuit coming back up into play again. And to where they were like, they had this Friday the 13th game. It was a very popular online game, and they started putting out like little downloadable content and stuff different. Like, hey, here's all this stuff from, part 2, part 3, whatever. And eventually, they had to go, wait a minute, we cannot do anything further on this game because of this lawsuit comes up or whatever. It's just, that's almost impossible, I'd say, because it just sounds so...
and some of the details I've seen, it's kind of like the Siegel family Superman thing. Like, the Superman that was created in 1936 is technically the same Superman, but he has changed so much.
Yeah.
Right.
That very small parts of what we identify as Superman now were really created by Jerry Siegel. So they have to kind of work out this bizarre mathematical formula as to how much Superman really does need to go to the Siegel family. And it's like the guy that, I mean, there was no hockey mask or machete in Friday the 13th, the original.
No, not until the third one.
So everything we think of as Jason Voorhees was kind of created after the fact, other than sort of the name, and the general idea of Crystal Lake and stuff. So it's another one of those weird things.
You're right. I think they could have legit argument to, like, to Crystal Lake, to the basic premise, but not like the iterations that you're absolutely correct. I think, yeah. Because they just didn't form all at one time. It was a long period of time, and then the hockey mask wasn't even supposed to be a thing.
It's like weird creative stuff. Like, you built a boat, and you gave the boat to this guy, but then he replaced every plank. He didn't replace it all at once, but he replaced like this plank, that plank, this plank, that plank. After a certain number of years, it's not really the same boat anymore.
And then he put a motor on it. That's a real big difference.
And then he made it a hovercraft with a mask and a machete.
And then it just killed all the teenagers, like, as intended.
Yeah, it kind of is the weird thing how creations morph, so how much is really what?
Quite true. All right. Well, I think we're looking pretty good here. Hey, everybody, set to go. I'm going to record music separately again just because. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sean Keenan.
Heidi cannot wait to hear what Bruce has to say about this movie.
And speaking of Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I'm looking forward to a Better Call Saul animated series.
Man, that would be dark. Bring your children in for this lovely Bob Odenkirk adventure, says no parent ever. But we are here today, everybody, to review Incredibles 2. Holy cow, what a little bit of a time gap between the first Incredibles and now. And yeah, I should have looked it up before the show, but we did actually review the first Incredibles on this program to much fanfare, if memory serves. And we're going to see how this one holds up today. So thanks for downloading, man. We really appreciate it. What I also would like to say is how I appreciate everyone who goes over to patreon.com/HMP and helps keep this good old HMP train a-rolling. Guys, guess what happened to me today?
You found a quarter.
I actually, I went, I was at work, and so a gentleman came up to me, and he goes, Adam? And I'm thinking he's just looking at the name badge. Of course he can read. Seems like an intelligent enough gentleman. And I go, yeah. Adam Portrais? And I'm like, who's asking? Because, at that point, who's to say?
Hold on. Don't finish the story yet. Does this end with you being served with legal documents?
No, thankfully. All those,
okay.
I'll say this. As far as that goes, there's no chance of that happening. So, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, challenge accepted.
That
like
ship
in the
is
case, like in the case of my baby mama with child support that she'll never pay. You ain't getting blood from that stone.
Yeah. No. There's no and no. And I go, yeah. And he's listener of this show and Patreon supporter of the Film Find. Ricardo Cook actually came in and said hello and pressed the flesh right there. It was pretty nice, man. And really weird also just seeing someone recognize me from a silly podcast.
Hey, it happened to me in Toys R Us not once but twice.
There you go. See, it's an odd thing, but I enjoy it. And thank you to Ricardo for supporting me on Patreon over on the Film Find, and, of course, listening here. And to all of those patrons, we thank you very much. And, of course, keep an eye out. We're dreaming up what we're going to be reviewing, have you guys vote for on the next try. So keep an eye out for that. Okay. Like I said, we have the Incredibles up here for you today. I do want to give holy cow. I'm getting choked up thinking about it. I do want to give you guys a quick heads up for those of you that may be new to the show. When we have new releases, we always see an increase in downloads and everything. Here on the Hero Movie Podcast, we do discuss all of the films that we review. So spoilers from here on out, just so you guys know. Don't want to spring that on anyone and them going, I didn't know, who's to say? But according to the box office, I'm pretty sure all of you watched this this weekend. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the trailer for The Incredibles 2.
So, are we going to talk about it?
What?
The elephant in the room.
What elephant?
Mom's new job.
It's time to make some wrong things right. Help me bring supers back into the sunlight. We need to change people's perceptions about superheroes, and Elastigirl is our best play.
Better than me?
Whoa! I like Mom's new job! Bye, sweetie.
I'll watch the kids, no problem.
That's not the way you're supposed to do it, Dad. They want us to do it this way.
I don't know that way. Why would they change math? Math is math.
Okay,
Math
Dad.
is math. Hello?
Hey, honey. How are the kids?
Everything's great.
Jack?
He's in excellent health.
What the?
Num-num cookie.
Oh, my God.
Cookie.
Wow, gay. That is freaky.
You know it's crazy, right? To help my family, I gotta leave it. To fix the law, I gotta break it.
You've got to, so our kids can have that choice.
Thank you, young man.
Combustion imminent? What does that mean? Ah!
It means fire, Robert.
The Screen Slater interrupts this program for an important announcement.
Suit up. It might get weird.
I'll be there ASAP.
Where you going ASAP? You better be back ASAP.
All right, that was the trailer for Incredibles 2. I said The Incredibles before. Technically, it's just Incredibles. I don't know where I get off with these articles. Here's the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. Bob Parr, Mr. Incredible, is left to care for Jack while Helen, Elastigirl, is out saving the world. Boy, you're really knocking it out of the park again, IMDb, I tell you what. This is written and directed by Brad Bird, starring Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Sarah Val Huck Milner, I guess that's how you say his name, Kathleen Keener, Bob Odenkirk, Samuel L. Jackson, and more. Let's do it. We've gone to the Incredibles field before for a comic book connection. While to our recollection, there's not any actual physical comic books. I believe our boy Bruce Leslie has some sort of comic book connection for us. Bruce, what do you got?
No intro music, huh?
Okay, listen, I'll try to play it, but the thing is on the thing. Let's give it a shot.
We'll do it live.
I forgot that was one I can actually do and not screw a little punch
I thought that was Sean just doing it live. I was pretty impressed.
Well, getting the guitar and everything. That's very nice.
Wow, 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 wow. Well, since this is a children's movie, I'm breaking out the old ventriloquist dummy to use for the comic book connection. So I think the kids will like that. Unfortunately, you can't see the dummy and his voice sounds just like mine, but just trust me. It's the ventriloquist dummy doing the talking here. Now, the occurrence that is pointed to as the beginning of the Silver Age of comics is most often the first appearance of Barry Allen in the year 1956. Now, this marked the first new, well-received superhero since the fall of the Golden Age during the tumultuous years of World War II. But for many, the birth of the actual gestalt of the Silver Age didn't happen until 1961 with the appearance of the Fantastic Four, so often referred to as the first family of comics. Now, I guess technically they weren't all blood relation, but the cast of Fast and Furious has taught me one thing. Never let something like a lack of blood relation stand in the way of being family. Now, Johnny is Sue's younger brother, and Sue and Reed did tie the knot, and Ben Grimm is just that family friend the kids call Uncle Thing. We've all got an Uncle Thing, right?
Sure.
Okay. Well, something that set the Fantastic Four apart when they were introduced was breaking convention with other comic book archetypes of the time. They would squabble, they'd hold grudges, both deep and petty, and they eschewed anonymity or secret identities in favor of celebrity status. When the idea of creating a superhero team for what was then Timely Comics came up, editor Martin Goodman gave the assignment to Stan Lee. Here's what Stan had to say about the idea. For just this once, I would do the type of story I myself would enjoy reading, and the characters would be the kind of characters I could personally relate to. They'd be flesh and blood. They'd have their faults and foibles. They'd be fallible and feisty. And most important of all, inside their colorful, costumed booties, still have feet of clay. I have no idea what he meant about the feet of clay, but I think he considered himself far too clever using faults and foibles and fallible and feisty all in a row. But when asked about the direction of an incredible sequel could take, Brad Bird had this to say. I didn't think that kind of idea stays interesting for very long. For me, the interesting thing was never the superhero part of it. It was more the family dynamic. And how do superhero things play into that? So I suppose with this focus on the core values of the Silver Age Fantastic Four, as well as the 60s Silver Age visual aesthetic used in the movie, it makes sense that he continues, in a way, to follow the guiding principles of the Fantastic Four. Now, some listeners may be confused about where I'm going with this, but it is important to remember that Reed Richards, Sue Storm, that family goes deeper than the three heroes and the weird orange, rocky, creepy uncle. Sue and Reed had a child, a youngster named Franklin Richards, and Franklin is a mutant beyond Omega level. In fact, he's probably the most powerful human ever born. So powerful, in fact, one could hardly consider him human. Now, if you paid careful attention to The Incredibles 2, you may have noticed their youngest offspring has powers. And not just a singular power like the rest of the family, but several powers such that one could consider the baby to be the most powerful member of the family. Compared to the other characters in the Incredibles world like Gazer Beam, Frozone, Screech, and Reflux, one could even argue that the Parr family youngster Jack Jack is perhaps even the most powerful being in the Incredibles universe. So back to the Fantastic Four for a moment. To try to give his son a normal life, Reed Richards devised psychic inhibitors to prevent his powers from being used. But Franklin, whether by fault or by intent, could still at times bypass the inhibitors and use his powers. In The Incredibles 2, Mr. Incredible takes baby Jack Jack to see Edna in hopes of a power-dampening suit that grants a measure of control but still allows some powers to be expressed. Franklin Richards goes on to have all kinds of adventures. He joins Power Pack for a few years, then later founds a team of superheroes known as the Fantastic Force. After the whole Onslaught affair, the young fella sent all the heroes to a pocket dimension so they could be recalled for the Heroes Reborn storyline. And after the events of the recent Secret Wars event, Franklin used his powers to recreate the entire Marvel Universe as to offset the effects of the incursion. I think Incredibles 2 does make it clear that Jack Jack could be the centerpiece of any future chapters of the Incredibles saga. If there are such chapters, well, they would probably center around the potential godlike powers of the child Jack Jack. Perhaps in a storyline that mimics Alan Moore's initial run on Miracle Man, only with Brad Bird's signature talent of missing the point. I guess we'll have to wait to the year 2032 when Incredibles 3 comes out to know if I'm right or wrong.
Real quick, I want to throw something by it. Like, I wish I won't be able to do it as well as they did, but I overheard something. I didn't even see who this was, but while I was at work, I overheard somebody give their theory of how, like, if the deal goes through with Disney getting Fox and everything, how they could do that, and it involved Franklin. Basically, there was like this kid, and they had just a one shot of him and everything, and he's like has a ball or whatnot. And they go through all this whole deal is like he doesn't know where he is or what it is or whatever, and they ask him his name, but basically saying how, again, I'm not doing it justice because it was a long conversation, but essentially Franklin, had the 20th Century Fox world, that he created or whatever, and then we just say, oh, well, now it's back to how the regular things are, and then you could, throw all that 20th Century Fox in Marvel as you see fit. Because the other one was just the one that Franklin made up in his head, so it counted but didn't count.
Oh, so you're talking about like the snow globe at the end of St. Elsewhere?
Yeah, exactly. Huh. Or Franklin Richards, whichever.
Or Jack Jack. They could just have baby Jack Jack.
One or the other. But so yeah, let's get into this now. Incredibles 1. We reviewed that. I saw it. I looked it up here, and
and here's the source of your confusion.
42.
Adam. The first movie was called The Incredibles. Oh. The second movie is called Incredibles 2.
Therein lies my
THE. So I don't know why they dropped it. You can only have so many syllables in a movie title of Pixar.
We went to the Mark Zuckerberg grill and dropped the. But yeah, so The Incredibles, that was episode 42 of HMP, so quite a while ago. I think we all pretty much signed up and said it was the best Fantastic Four movie that was not a Fantastic Four movie. Would that be right?
Yeah. I don't think we argued with that at all. Nope. That's been, popular thought on that movie for a long time.
Mm-hmm. But Sean, as you were telling us kind of like during a little break that we didn't end up recording and stuff, you got a little, as did we, a special little announcement before this movie, yeah?
Yeah, I wonder if it's in all movie theaters. It must be, right? I mean, that the where the actors start talking about how, look, we know how long it's been since the last one came out, so like they say thank you for showing up or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, well, thank you, Samuel L. Jackson. No, thank you, Samuel L. Jackson. That sort of thing where, yeah, like we all, and I guess it's a good move, like that. At least there's some sort of nod to how long it's been.
Yeah. I don't know, man. The weird thing is it's been 14 years and we've got the sequel to The Incredibles here and they're going on there sort of apologizing for how long it took or whatever, but I don't know that anybody cared that much that it took 14 years. Like I don't know, man. It just seems weird. It's not like this didn't seem like that big of a deal to me, but I guess I'm in the minority because it was a big deal to a lot of people.
This came back in the day when Pixar, by and large, really didn't do sequel upon sequel. They just weren't in the sequel business big time back then. And, of course, that's all
there
gone
were
away.
2 Cars sequels and a Cars spinoff in the interim.
By that time? I don't think so.
But between Incredibles and Incredibles 2.
Between them. Yeah. Oh, yes, for sure. I was just like, no, those other ones weren't around then, but they were like single-serving, movies and everything. And then when that was one of the first ones they were like, oh my gosh, yes, we absolutely have to do a sequel. And then 14 years later, we actually and that's kind of amazing because 14 years later, we pick up exactly where we left off.
Do you mind if I hijack the show for a little bit?
No, please.
Go ahead, because I've still got some Craig T. Nelson comments before we get into it.
So first of all, I want to know what everyone's level of anticipation for this movie was. So, and Bruce, I think I know yours, but I'm going to save it to the end because it's my favorite part. So, Adam, what was your level of anticipation for this movie?
I mean, look, I thoroughly enjoyed the first one. I thought this one was bound to be pretty good. You have Brad Bird back at the helm. I don't see any reason why it should be bad. Then again, I'm not looking for them to, reinvent the wheel here.
Sure.
I think I'm just going to go in and get a movie that was, to some degree or another, Incredibles-esque. So we had something to compare it to. I figure it would be probably around that level, maybe a little bit less, but I wasn't building it up to be too much more than that, to be quite frank.
So what did you think? Was it more of like a footnote to all the other big movies that come out this summer? Or was it something where it was like, oh, this is just part of the rollout of summer movies?
Well, it's tough to say. For me personally, I don't like, this wasn't like, and during the summer, Incredibles 2. Like, it wasn't, I didn't have that in me. But as we've seen at the box office, man, everyone else apparently had that on their mind or something, because it certainly bore out that way, monetarily at least.
Yeah. Well, there also isn't a ton of options to bring your family to where like it's something that you want to see also. So it kind of hits perfectly during this time of year. But it's because everything's about to get killed by Jurassic Park anyway.
And here's the thing, you're right. And some of these people that have seen those movies, have literal kids of their own now that they can bring to these things, and who I'm sure grew up watching it on DVD.
Right. So Bruce, now with bated breath, what was your level of anticipation for this movie?
It kind of feels like, there was a thing. I don't know if it still goes on so much, but there was a thing like late 90s, early 2000s, like bands doing one more tour, and they're bands that were awesome in their own way, but they kind of didn't really need to get back together and go on tour again, but they did, and everything sold out. Like Steel Wheels is the one that I really think of, like the Rolling Stones Steel Wheels tour from like 1990, 91. And the Rolling Stones were legends, and this was supposed to be their last tour. And of course it wasn't. And then they released an album that was a best-selling album, but in retrospect, it's one of their most forgettable albums. And my anticipation for this was just sort of like, we probably didn't need it, but it's probably going to be pretty good. You couple that with the fact that I haven't been impressed with Pixar in general in a while.
Right. So what's your last? When's the last time they did something great?
And somebody might point something out that proves me wrong, but off the top of my head, I'm thinking Toy Story 3 was such an accomplishment, and it seemed like that would have been a good time for Pixar just to fully say, okay, we're done with this Pixar phase, and we're just Disney Digital from now on, or something like that. Like, man, that would have been awesome. if Pixar's grand finale was Toy Story 3 and they just changed their name to Disney Digital and do kind of what they've done since Toy Story 3.
Well, I mean,
you can't do that, man. They built the brand up. You can't do that. Come on.
Well, and here's the thing. Disney animation is already a thing, though.
Yeah, but they still... You can still kind of tell that Pixar isn't what it used to be, you know?
No, that's the problem. You can't tell what they used to be because they haven't changed. I think that's the problem.
I don't know, man. I disagree with you there. I think that Toy Story 3 was awesome, and everything Pixar's done since then has left me kind of And then there's some of the Disney stuff that it's like it feels like Pixar, but it's actually Disney, and then there's stuff that feels like Disney, but it's actually Pixar. It's
like
just
Wreck-It
becoming
Ralph
a label
like
that
Pixar
they slap
big
back
time.
and forth now.
Yeah.
Well, the other part to this too is that Pixar basically raised the level of animation everywhere, just storytelling wise, which is which is a great thing. I mean, it's something that we've completely reaped the rewards from after their third or fourth movie in a row, where you're just like, well, how come all animated movies can't be like this? And the answer is because they can't be. These are too good.
Yeah, it was eventually one of those times where the mighty had to fall at some point.
Sure. And, Lasseter and Brad Bird and these guys, they were idea factories for a while. But even idea factories start drying up, so you got to bring in new talent. And if you don't have someone else rising up the ranks to, give you, at the very least, new blood for the people that are already there, then you're going to have... Cars 3 and airplanes and all that crap, like the stuff that nobody who's older than 10 gives a crap about,
And I'm not sure about it, but it should be. It's surprising that it's not really what it used to be with Pixar. That's how we got the Pete Doctors and things like that, was going through the system, kind of Corman style, where like, oh, you were this lead on all these things in this flick. Guess what? You're the next director now. They needed to do more stuff like that. I think you're right.
Do you guys mind if I still hijack the show? Can I still do that for a bit?
Please do. That's less hijacking I have to do.
All right. So let me, because this is the interesting thing to me is your relationship with this franchise, Bruce, because I would think that this hits all of your soft targets, and it doesn't, because I know why. I know why you were this way with the first Incredibles, so it's going to be the same thing with this one.
Well,
but
let me stop you right there, and I'll just say, without tipping my hand too much, I probably have a better relationship with Incredibles 2 than I do the Incredibles.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yeah.
So what are your, if you're going to pick 3 things from this movie that you like, let's say, and I don't want to put you on the spot of what makes this movie better than, in your opinion, better than the first Incredibles movie. Give me 3 moments in the movie where you're like, man, that's good.
I like the role reversal with Mr. Incredible and Mrs. Incredible, or Elastigirl, I should say.
Yeah.
I kind of like putting Elastigirl front and center. I like Bob Odenkirk's character.
Man, so good.
Because you're totally expecting him to eventually make the turn and be the bad guy, and he never does. Like, he's a genuine person, which is too hard to find in these kinds of stories.
Yep.
And I think that, when your movie is universally loved, almost universally loved, like The Incredibles,
right,
but there is one big glaring issue with it that gets pointed out by intelligent and reasonable people, not like fanboys hating on the latest Star Wars movie, but I mean like legitimate people that have an understanding of both the medium of superheroes and of movies in general.
You can say Adam, Bruce. Come on.
but you can't help after
Adam
14
hates
years
everything.
not making a course correction on the sequel. And he makes a little bit of a course correction, though I still think misses the point to a degree.
Are you talking about the exceptionalism?
I'm talking about objectivism. The whole Anne Ryan thing that he sort of unknowingly really supported with Syndrome, the bad guy in the first one.
Right.
He still kind of makes a little bit of that mistake here, where he's basically making the common person the bad guy still, in general. But he also off-plays it a little bit. I mean, he sees his course correction and makes a more interesting villain this time around. The villain isn't hoping to be in the cool kids club and getting locked out. The villain just wants to put an end to the club.
Yeah.
So that makes it a little bit easier to accept, rather than the bad guy is the common person who wants to build themselves up based on their own cleverness and skill rather than being born with all the advantages. I mean, that was the villain in the first one. This one is a person born with a different set of advantages who wants to put an end to the old club because they hold them accountable for something maybe that wasn't their fault.
Right. And what about you, Adam? Give me 3 things.
One of the biggest things that this movie does is it has that interpersonal family relationship that is absolutely believable. This gets how kids are with each other.
Yeah.
And like, if you spend any time around children, this is exactly how they act. It's so dead on. It's great. So I really like that aspect. I did like the aspect of, like Bruce said, changing the fact that we put Miss Incredible out there. Or Elastigirl.
Elastigirl.
Yeah, it's better. Elastigirl out there as opposed to Mr. Incredible, which is correct. I thought that may get to be, the hit you over the head with the girls can do just as much, but they have really good story reasons behind it, and they make sense.
Right.
From a marketing standpoint, this is what we want to do. Oh, yeah, no, we'd really judge you. And it feels like they've actually done these studies that say the audience is going to react to her way more than they will with you. So in order to get our venture on the way that it needs to go, that's how we get it. So it didn't feel like it was shoehorned in. It felt like they actually wrote a story to make it make sense.
Well, also they have that really great, to me, it's just such lock solid writing where not only has marketing proven that Elastigirl is a far more like superhero than Mr. Incredible, but let me show you the breakdown of just collateral damage every time you do something.
Yeah.
Like that is to me, that is a very simple extra step that only a movie with writers who care would add, because saying, hey, marketing from a marketing perspective, she's better. I would say even live action, like 75% of your live action movies wouldn't even care enough to add that extra step of not only does it make sense to have the pretty girl up front, but also you cause so much collateral damage. People hate you just by looking at you.
Yeah, it's a really smart move that they do with everything that otherwise would have just been but girls can do just as good as guys can. It's just like we don't need that, and it's such lazy nonsense to where this is believable, it makes sense, and it works with the story. And that leads me into my third point is again a different part of the family cohesiveness of this story, not just the fact that of their interplay altogether, but the fact that it really, to me, shows what each member of the family kind of truly brought to the dynamic, and how this family is the sum of its parts, right? And how everyone is capable. They did not have Bob be the stupid, bumbling father. This is Father's Day we're at right now, Yeah. And let's be honest, dads oftentimes through movies and media and stuff like that are portrayed as the bumbling moron idiot fools who can't do anything for themselves, and God help them if they can find their butt with 2 hands.
They even took a subtle stab at that in this movie. Like if you're watching, they have some like real world Johnny Quest clips on the TV that they show. They also have like the 60s equivalent of an infomercial where they're talking about making something in the oven, and they say it's so simple even he can do it.
Yeah,
you can overhear that in the background. They do take a tiny little stab at the infomercial dad, if you will.
Yeah,
but good. But he got over his stuff. Instead of just being like, I'm a stupid dad and I can't do this math, he hustles down and figures out how to do his stupid kids Common Core math, which is what that is. People, let's not kid ourselves. And steps up to the plate and is the father. And there's so many times in all media where that's just,
I want to back up on the Common Core math thing, because there was a question that was raised to me that for some reason seemed like it was pretty obvious after it had been asked, but I never asked myself. But this movie has a 60s aesthetic, and it's definitely leaning into Silver Age comic books. But I always thought it was like Batman the animated series, or even Gotham, if we're going to stick with Batman stuff, where it's just sort of an anachronistic time where things just sort of seem out of place for aesthetic reasons. But then as I started watching this compared to the first one, where I think it was just more an anachronistic existence, I start to think that this movie is set in the 60s. Like, I don't think it's just an aesthetic choice. And I feel dumb that I'm even saying that like it was a revelation. But, you know, watching this movie, I think that one difference between the first one and this one is Brad Bird has firmly decided this exists in the 1960s when just like parents now are complaining about Common Core math, back in the 60s and our parents' generation, our grandparents complained about new math. I can remember my grandparents using the term new math, which is what the change in the way arithmetic was taught in the maybe late 50s, early 60s was called new math. And you know what it was new from? Essentially Common Core. Like, you know, in the 30s and 40s, things were taught one way, then it was changed for a while, then we go back. It's sort of a cycle of changing the way things are taught so that parents and grandparents can have things to complain about.
That sounds like a good wrap up.
I gotta go back on something you said earlier, Bruce, which is that it is still alternative universe Earth, because there's things like you see cell phones and you see like cordless phones and
Rocking
things
cars.
like that.
Do we see any cell phones? I know we see cordless phones. I'm not sure we see any cell phones.
Well, somebody ends up calling somebody, I can't remember what it is, but somebody calls someone in this movie. I might be wrong, but I don't think I am.
I feel like that sounds familiar.
I don't know, but is it more like a James Bond Get Smart, like spy phone rather than a common cell phone?
It totally could be.
Is it a shoe is what we're asking.
But I think that I think that they have both bases covered anyway. I mean, to be honest with you here, because they don't it's not about. I mean, for them it is where it's okay, we're set in the past. We're not set in the past, that sort of thing. But they seem to be on purpose wishy-washy with it, which is great. I don't care. Like the aesthetic of this movie is 60s space age bachelor pad. I mean, that's what it is. It's not even mid-century modern. It is futuristic 60s bachelor pad, like where everything is stick legs and everything is clean lines and it's gorgeous. And even the music is 60s spy music. You know, it's not superhero music that you're hearing.
And just as an aside, I sent you guys a little bit of a Wikipedia link to your text if you get a chance to look at it to kind of back up what I was saying before. Yeah.
And so we're because for me, my favorite thing about these movies, and I really have to hand it to Pixar, even though it feels like they're about to change this, is that to me, Edith is our Edna mode.
You slipped a little behind the scenes there, calling her Edith.
Edna is the best, funniest character in my opinion in animation. She is so incredibly well done. Every single detail about her is fantastic. I love the way that her lower body moves differently from everyone else in the movie, because she's got little digga legs, and really no one else has that except for Jack. And then you get to see that great moment where Jack starts impersonating Edna as they're walking down the hallway. So good. Everything about that stuff is great. And just the graphic design of the bag she hands Mr. Incredible with the suit in it, where it says mode, and it's like a silhouette of her face. Yeah. And then the O and the circle and D make her glasses.
Nice.
And it is so well done. I want a shirt. I want a t-shirt.
And just like the first movie, the voice for Edna is still provided by Brad Bird here in the sequel.
Yeah, and they never went. They never went Despicable Me Minions. Like they never went full Minions in this with this property.
Well, here's the thing, and I'll piggyback off of that and say they furthered her character in this to where she wasn't just the oh, I come in and I'm a super quirky character for quirky's sake for this scene and everything. We actually get character beats and notes from her, and then that also then relate back to family wise and everything, and it works really, really well.
I love everything about her, and I'm glad that they use her sparingly. She's not like The later episodes of Happy Days where the Fonz is living over the garage and he's there every minute of every day. Like they use her very sparingly because they know what they have and they know, let's not give her her own movie. Let's not give her,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just love that character so much. The second thing that I love is that they actually made someone with elastic powers cool. I
think that's happened before.
With who?
Plastic Man. He's like the coolest guy ever.
There is nothing cool about Plastic Man.
Everything about Plastic Man.
What are you going to say? The shades, the crummy haircut? Get out of here. Plastic Man
Everything about
stinks.
Plastic Man is cool. Not to mention, in live action, Ralph Dibny is the only good thing about the Flash this past season. But for example, Elastigirl has her Elastabike, which they work really hard to give it a gimmick. It breaks into two pieces, and she's like the stretchy Slinky in the middle.
I like that. It's
a stretch, pun intended. It's a stretch for a gimmick. It's not that exciting. Whereas Plastic Man simply would turn into the motorbike.
Yeah. But the thing with her is, and what kind of makes that cool is A, it's obviously impossible. B, it's just kind of like, how is she going to use that then? It's like, instead of like this tool fixes everything, we have to go, how is that tool going to fix this problem? And then we get to see that tool take use. It's cool.
I agree, and I especially like the fact that they basically make her Spider-Man. I mean, that's the answer. If you want to make somebody cool who has elastic power, then you basically make her Spider-Man without the webs. I think it's a very, very cool idea.
And I'll still stick by Plastic Man as my main man when it comes to somebody who's elastic. But Elastigirl's good too.
For new listeners, he also likes the Blob too. So God bless the kid. We can't help.
And the Rhino is his favorite character.
So yeah.
So the third,
everybody loves Plastic Man. It's not just me. Quit being silly, guys.
My third favorite thing about this movie is the family dynamic, where they set up the entire first half of this movie where the kids aren't the parents. Like the kids aren't nearly as good at this as the parents are, and then you take away the parents, and then the kids have to save the day, and it adds a tension that a lesser movie would not have. I mean, it would just be like, come on, we're awesome, and on something lesser than, like something that you might see on like Disney TV or Disney Channel or something like that. Go ahead.
Something you referred to earlier that I'll call back here, where you're talking about the kids kind of coming together to help save the day. One thing I was a little worried about when Jack gets taken to Edna is that essentially the whole family was going to get captured, and Jack and Edna were going to save them, and they were going to do some pandering fan service where Edna gets to put on her own creation of a super suit and save the day. And I was glad they didn't do that. But can you guys not see how some people would be tempted to tell that story?
Yes,
oh yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Awful.
I mean, shit. The Ghostbusters sequel is that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah, Edna was in that.
Yes, exactly. But they don't go a step too far with this. They have I like the character ideas that they have to go along, that new batch of superheroes, because you need the right thing for this universe. Like there's some things that wouldn't work in the superhero universe.
So Bruce, have you had the time to break down who each of these characters obviously is?
Well, are you talking about with the Incredibles family?
All the new Misfits.
In the whole movie.
All the new Misfits.
New Misfits, yeah, sure. I assigned them all names, of course, and then some of the old ones were already around. But are you asking me to elaborate on?
I mean,
I think Brick. Yeah, Brick is their juggernaut here. Void is Blink. Screech is probably, there's a couple different choices for Screech, but I'm going to go with Leland Owsley, even though he's a villain instead of a hero. Reflux, man, I don't know who he's based on, but I'm glad there's a character that I can't wait to cosplay with Reflux. And I don't know, Crusher, that's sort of a generic archetype, but he does have one of the best lines. You expect Crusher to uncrush something. You can't unpunch something, can you?
What do you do when somebody says unpunch that? It's so good. I gotta say, this is the way that I saw this movie, is that last night I saw Incredibles 1 because I knew I would forget a lot of it. And so I watched that last night, and then today, and I knew that it started, seconds after the first one ends. And so I saw Incredibles last night. Today I see Incredibles 2, and it really paid off. Like, it was a really good idea because the people at Pixar are smart and good at their job. And so instantly they show that character who works for the government on screen, and I know who that guy is. Mm-hmm. And then the boyfriend shows up, and because he's the second face you see in that movie, and I know exactly who that is. Yeah. Whereas if I didn't have, if I hadn't have seen it literally last night, that would not have meant anything to me, because I go, oh yeah, that's probably some generic, And
CIA guy. After 14 years of curiosity and feeling like I was left without a satisfying ending, I finally know what happened with the Underminer.
It's right.
And still, though, he did get away. So I thought it would have been awesome at the end of this movie if the Underminer had shown up again in an end-credit scene or something.
He's just the same dude, keeps coming back every film just to start and finish it off.
I'm going to rob another bank.
I like that.
Super rich. Super rich mole man.
Yeah, I wish the Underminer had shown up again.
What a surprise that one of your favorite characters is the Underminer.
It's like, is he a squatty little thing that lives under the earth? Well, Bruce might be a big fan.
I gotta tell you, you know what I was surprised by? That they here's another thing I'm surprised they didn't do, was they didn't have that moment where they've got to go talk to Syndrome, and he's like Hannibal Lecter behind a glass prison.
Yes.
I kind of would have liked that.
I was very surprised and happily surprised that they didn't go there. I was very happy for that.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I kind of would have liked to see a little Syndrome brought back. Who voiced Syndrome again?
Jason Lee.
Jason Lee.
Ah, man, guy's busy making those squeakles. He can't do it.
He's just like, the check clears, man. The check clears.
But yeah. I kind of would have liked some kind of update on Syndrome. Would have been interesting, though. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they're saving him for the third movie. Like I said, in 2032. We'll find out.
Craig T. Nelson's Ghost.
Some of the things I just maybe don't like as much about Brad Bird's treatment of superheroes. The same thing that goes back to Incredibles, and it's still here in Incredibles 2, is he makes statements like he's not really a fan of the superhero genre, and what he finds interesting is different from what makes it interesting. But the thing is, somebody who's not a fan of superhero dramas and superhero stories doesn't understand that they're not what you think they are. Because in his attempt to maybe do a subversive superhero story or to tell you a different kind of superhero story, for the second time in a row, he falls back on some pretty well-worn tropes. Like the idea that the superheroes are looked at by the public as villains and they're outlawed. I mean, come on. We've got two mega famous stories where that happens and lots of lesser known stories where that happens. The idea that it's really more about the family dynamic than the superheroing, well, that's been pretty much every story ever since the Fantastic Four just burst the scene wide open with a new kind of storytelling. I mean, people that watch the CW and complain, like, I wanted to watch a comic book show and instead I get a soap opera, I often tell them, man, read some comics. You're going to see a whole lot more soap opera than superheroing in the comics. True. It's just interesting that twice now he said he wants to do something subversive and doesn't give you what you expect, and twice he's fallen on some pretty well-worn tropes, and in all fairness, something that has probably 300 major stories a month every month since 1936, it's going to be hard to find new territory. You just got to tell your own story, understanding that you're not it's going to be very hard to come up with one of something that hasn't been done in some way, shape, or form. You just got to find a way to elevate it to a new level. But once again, a whole lot of tropes here. With, of course, the baby being super powerful. That's not anything new. The kids saving the parents. That's not anything new. The heroes being outlawed, turning the tables. The idea that the person that the hero is working for is actually the one creating the conflicts, a little bit of Mr. Glass going on there with who turns out to be the true villain of the story.
Now Bruce, let me ask you something, and I don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Where do you know for sure that like Brad Bird has kind of stuck his flag in the ground and said, "I'm going over. This is all new stuff, and I'm not doing anything else."
Okay, I'm going to read you again his quote.
Oh, please. Okay.
So Brad Bird asked about would he make a sequel. This is before he had made this.
Okay, gotcha.
When asked about making a sequel, if he would consider it, he said, "I don't think that kind of idea stays interesting for very long." And he's also talking about the fact that so many superhero movies have been made since the first Incredibles. So for me, the interesting thing was never the superhero part of it. It was more the family dynamic and how do superhero things play into that.
Oh,
so that's kind of a direct
You
quote.
were missing the last part here that says, and they backed up a Brinks truck to my house and said, "This is yours."
But basically his statement was, with all these superhero movies out there with superheroes using their powers to fight big evils, I wanted to tell a different kind of story. And clearly he doesn't understand that superhero stories aren't what people who don't enjoy them think they are, perhaps. I mean,
I got to tell you, just from the care that's taken with the but now 2 Incredible stories, I don't know if I believe that. I think that that's probably a company line, but I don't think that that's the case here. I think that he has absolute love for comic books and the source material.
I think that was him trying to weasel out of what he was going to do, because if we look at the trajectory from Brad Bird. Post the first Incredibles movie, he goes on to do a lot of live action stuff. He goes on to do a Mission Impossible, the Tomorrowland. So he was kind of edging towards that area. So I think that was could have been more him just almost talking himself out of the possibility of it even happening. But then again, like I said, time and money and his live action career didn't take off as well as he had hoped. So
well, not just that, but don't forget he has very, very famously and publicly turned down directing Star Wars. They offered it to him on a plate, and he said, no, thank you. So, him directing Incredibles 2, there has to be some reason why he said yes to it, because he clearly has no problem saying no.
In all fairness, he didn't accept the job until Lucas turned down Incredibles 2.
Oh, I see.
And he did and he got to not only direct but write these as well, and that very rarely happens for any animation that you get to do both writing and directing. And it's,
do you know if he drew it all as well?
Yeah, it was basically him with Illustrator. That's why it took 10 years.
Man, on a weird side note, I watched a little featurette on the making of the Lion King movie and the guys that made that movie. And talk about some incredibly talented guys. First, you see these 2 guys talking about the characters. They whip out a pen and some paper, and they start drawing the characters. They have professional animators, because with hand-drawn animation, thousands of people back then were drawing these pictures. But they whip it out, and they are skilled, ridiculously skilled artists, cartoonists, drawing these characters as they talk about them. Then you see a pitch meeting where they've drawn the storyboards, and the 2 of them are singing Hakuna Matata as they point through the storyboard. And they are singing it like Broadway level musical quality singing. And you realize, okay, so they've written the story. They have drawn the story. If need be, they can sing all the songs in the story. You find out they wrote a lot of the music. So they're not just singers, but they understand how those trebles and basses and stuff work. And their art. I mean, some people, it's a sin. There should be a law against having too much talent. And
Agreed.
Those guys that did The Lion King fall into that category.
Disgusting.
And Brad Bird may fall into that category because, he wrote it, he directed it, he acts the voice, provides the voice for Edna. And you may not know this, but he also did some of the catering. He's a very skilled cook.
Oh, you've got to try the whatever.
What that man does with portobello mushrooms will make your head swim, son.
He's the Guy Ferrari of digital animation.
Ferrari. I love Bruce so much.
I like that not only because he gets angry, because I could tell that it made him bristle when I called him Guy Fieri one day, and so he started calling him Guy for I can't remember
Ferrari. Heroes.
Right, but then Bruce, instead of instead of acquiescing to the man's actual name, doubles down. He goes, no, not only am I not going to call him by his name, I'm going to call him Guy Ferrari.
I'm going to get it doubly wrong.
Oh, so good, Bruce.
Not only am I going to get it wrong, I'm going to get it wrong again on purpose. That's a level of skill.
And by the way, there's your new Cars movie.
Yeah, Guy Ferrari. I love it, man.
We're driving to
the car with the
Flavortown,
flames and
everybody.
the orange placemats, or what do you call those things? Floor mats.
Mud flats? Mud
Yeah,
flaps?
mud flaps. Big orange mud flaps.
Oy, terrible.
But man, we kind of skipped right over the little short before the movie.
Okay, so I'm going to say this. You guys know the stuff that I've been through recently, very recently, and my daughter, as we're driving to the movie theater, says to me, "So just so you know, I have a couple of friends who've seen The Incredibles 2 already, and the short at the beginning of the movie has made a lot of people cry, just so you know." And I was like, well, I don't think that I'm in any, I'm not in any trouble of that. And she goes, we'll see. And so the subject matter is the subject matter of that short, and I uncontrollably lose my stuff in the movie theater. It was so embarrassing for her. Like, it was bad. And like the hardest I have cried since all my family stuff went down. And it was I felt so bad for my daughter because it was uncontrollably weeping. It was crazy.
Now you understand how I feel every time I hear Christmas shoes.
So, like, for me, I love that short. I hope I never see it again, though. But man, what a great short that was.
Yeah. You know who I am. I cry at everything. So, like, I was already just like, I start every one of these out with, "You're not getting me this time." Yeah. Oh, I'm not gonna do it. Oh God, not again.
I will not have another up.
I'm going to go on record as saying that, and not because I don't like the quality. I'm just going to go on record as saying I'm ready for Pixar to stop with the shorts, because I don't need to just be totally like bummed out. I don't need to be asking myself sort of significant existential questions about my own interfamily relationships and the sorts of things like that come up. Like, if you want to give me two volcanoes singing with the ukulele, I can deal with that. So they can do the I Lava You stuff.
I even cried at that piece of crap.
Some of this, when they start throwing some of these heavy things in there, I'm just done with it. Like, come on, man. At least give us a warning. Like, there should be some kind of a rating, like what kind of short are we going to get so we know whether or not to come in 20 minutes late.
Trigger warning. Oh, my Lord.
Or maybe what they do is they just flip the script entirely and just make their next short just hardcore pornography.
This is interesting. What's this
It's
term?
I Lava You Part 2.
But to me, though...
Kids screaming from the movie theater crying.
No! Mickey!
Oh, my God!
But I to me, all of those are, well, I think obviously they can be, awful sad and stuff. A lot of times they're also kind of happy sad. Man, that one with the dog, oh, my gosh.
Eat or Food or whatever that was called?
Yeah, whatever it was called, where the dog is just growing up and like all the eating the food and the dog. It's a dog, man. Come on, forget about it.
Why don't they just give us some Mr. Bean shorts? I could go with those.
Okay, first of all, if you want to get me in the theater twice as quick, that's how you do it.
Mr. Bean shorts.
Mr. Bean. I would, man, if everything that we watched like had just like a 5-minute Mr. Bean bit on it ahead of time, a total, Robin rating up every movie.
I will say 5 minutes is the perfect amount with that character also.
Yeah, you don't need too awful long.
Yeah.
Imagine a 4-hour performance by Mr. Bean. You think you're making it through that thing?
No.
Hey, we're getting a third Johnny English movie, everybody. Just saying.
That's too many Johnny Englishes.
I think so too, but I'll still watch it.
Was the short before what was the movie called about the Dia de los Muertos movie that came out?
Coco?
Yeah, Coco.
It's called My Stupid Tattoo.
Well, I heard that the short before Coco was so bad that they like quit showing it before the movie by the second or third week.
Oh, because it was basically a Frozen sing-along. It was awful.
I don't remember it. Like, I saw Coco, but I don't remember the short. So maybe I saw it in the second or third week.
It was also like 20 minutes long.
Oh gosh,
people like
that's not a short. That's a not quite
straight up left theaters going, I'm in the wrong movie. Because it just keeps going.
Oi.
So this Dumpling Head was definitely better than the Frozen sing along.
Pumpkinhead and Dumpling Head sound like a great tag team wrestling group.
Oh man,
I watched that all day long. But yes, so
final thoughts I'll say before we start asking how this show connects. But I'm so impressed that from the moment Bob Odenkirk's character shows up, I'm expecting him to be the one to make the heel turn, and to the very end, he stays genuine. And when's the last time you've seen a major character stay genuine throughout a movie? So I was impressed with that, and I liked the actor, and I liked the character, and I thought that was a cool move.
And then again, you're right,
and
dudes are usually the bad guys too. So and that's where everyone's eyes were affixed. So.
And I'm also going to say that little live action thing where they said, we're sorry it took so long. The takeaway from that is that Craig T. Nelson still looks good enough to pull off that Coach Major Dad crossover I'm dreaming of.
Just no. But look. There's a lot to recommend about this movie. I'm trying to. And we didn't talk about Kathleen Keener because obviously she plays that role, and I thought that was so cool. I felt it like with the glasses and everything, also kind of very Twilight Zone-esque or Outer Limits.
They even have the Outer Limits on the TV in the background at one part in this movie. Which also makes me think, the first one was so heavily compared to Watchmen, not necessarily in a good way. And, of course, Watchmen's ending so closely paralleled an episode of The Outer Limits, and then The Outer Limits shows up in this movie. People are thinking of stuff.
Bruce is in his dark cave going, I got this one.
I've got the yarn connecting all the dots on my bulletin board here in the wall.
Yeah, but again, she was like, it was good having her as a villain, and again, having that turn made sense. It felt like it was actually kind of earned and everything, and I liked the character a lot. And I dated a girl who kind of looked like that character, which is weird, but yeah. All right, anything else before we get to one of the most important parts of this program? Because I don't know about you guys. But when I go to a movie, I ask myself one question alone. Not what time does it start, not who's starring in it, who directs it. I don't want to know any of that. All I want to know is how this movie relates to one Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Once upon a time, there was a TV show on NBC called Las Vegas, which was a boring, by-the-numbers, utterly forgettable show with one big exception. And one story arc, and for reasons that to this day remain unclear, Sylvester Stallone played a small one-time cameo called Frank the Repairman. For selfish reasons, I'm thrilled that this happened because when it comes to properties like The Incredibles, it's nice to lean on something just in case I can't find that Stallone connection in some other way. Well, guess what? I'm using this connection again this week because Barry Bostwick, who voiced the character of the mayor in Incredibles 2, was also on the TV show Las Vegas. I can't think of a single reason why Barry Bostwick would be on Las Vegas that didn't involve money, and I can't say I blame him. We've all taken jobs for that very reason. One time I worked on a movie about kite surfing. Now, generally at this point, I'd whip out some trivia about the TV show Las Vegas, but I got distracted because while doing a deep dive on Barry Bostwick, who you might know as either Brad from Rocky Horror Picture Show or as the mayor on Spin City, it turns out in 2015, Barry Bostwick was in a movie called The Scorpion King 4, The Quest for Power. And in full disclosure, the second I read that he was in The Scorpion King 4, The Quest for Power, everything else was put on hold because I needed to know everything about this movie. Why does it exist? Who likes The Scorpion King so much that they made 3 sequels on a movie that was an offshoot of The Mummy? I had so many questions that it made me almost want to see it, but I was not willing to spend $3 on a movie that I knew I would have instant regret watching. But I still had so many questions, like, just how many Scorpion King movies are there? The answer is 4. Who else is in the Scorpion King 4, The Quest for Power? And there's a lot, like Rutger Hauer, Michael Biehn, M. Emmett Walsh, and Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, wow.
And it may surprise you to learn, because I was surprised that The Rock is not in the 4th movie. But playing the role of the Scorpion King is a guy named Victor Webster, who has been the Scorpion King since Scorpion King 3, Battle for Redemption. And Victor Webster's biggest role up to the time of me writing this is the Bruce Leslie favorite movie, Surrogates.
Yeah.
The plot of Scorpion King 4, The Quest for Power is this. When betrayed by a trusted friend, Matthias, a.k.a. the Scorpion King, must marshal his strength and cunning to outwit a formidable opponent who will stop at nothing to unlock a supreme ancient power. Now that sounds awesome. Until you put together that there's no doubt they made this movie with $24. And they gave 22 of those dollars to Lou Ferrigno. And how accurate is ancient Egypt depicted in Scorpion King 4? Because I'm pretty sure the art direction on that bad boy is top shelf. And there you have it, HMPers. This week's Stallone connection is Barry Bostwick. Now, Gazer Beam and Brick, let's review Incredibles and start working on our Luke Cage impressions for next week.
The whole set's a bunch of black Duvetine. They're like, it's in the darkness, I guess. Shut up. Well, for those of you that are new to this podcast and those of you that have been around for a while, you know that our over here we do things a little bit differently. No letters, no grades, anything else like that. We have our own little wacky system. It's called the Patented Robin Rating System, and if you'd like to check that out, head on over to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast and give us a like. It's right there at the top of the screen, always for your viewing pleasure. Bruce, let's start with you. Where does Incredibles 2, no article, fall on the Robin rating system for you, sir?
I think Brad Bird did a little course correction with between The Incredibles and Incredibles 2. I definitely am not. I'm not upset with this one in the same manner that I would have been with the first one. I still stick by my guns that his original ideas aren't quite so original as he fancies them, but it is a good enough movie. Something I didn't really mention during the review, but I'll mention here, is it did seem to move just a little slow at times. Seems to be a bit longer maybe than the first one was. But overall, I'm still going to stick with the, nice Tim Drake territory on this one. It's a good movie.
Okay. Sean, what do you got?
For me, it's a very high Tim Drake. I really, really like this movie. I like this movie so much that I'm going to make this. I'm going to say this now. This to me is the most satisfying superhero movie I've seen this year so far. I was utterly and completely satisfied walking out of the movie theater. And, it's not to say that it's my favorite superhero movie, but it was the most satisfying that when I was driving home, I was like, man, that's good. That was really, really good. I don't know what I'm going to think. I don't know if I'll be able to explain anything a week from now of what I saw in that movie. But as of right now, I really enjoyed seeing Incredibles 2. So it's a very, very high Tim Drake for me.
It's weird. Three grades. They're all the same. I'm Tim Drake as well, but I'm more with Sean, which really makes me think Bruce has got to. I know you think it's neutral, Bruce, but I think you got to be on the low end of Tim Drake the way that you go at it. But I'm going to go high Tim Drake here as well. It wasn't over and abounding of anything that we saw in the first Incredibles movie, but as far as the sequel goes and what I expected out of this particular sequel, I got what I was looking for. It was a good time. There's some great set pieces and a lot of really good camera work, virtual camera, obviously, but camera work following one shots and going all over the place and doing things that are literally just impossible to do with real cameras is
a lot
so
of good
very
visual
cool.
stuff. A lot of good visual stuff.
But his storytelling, I'm just like, gosh, man, if he could pull off this stuff in like live action, it would be unreal. But yeah, very high Tim Drake for me as well. So I enjoy it. So 3 Tim Drakes all around, though, them being higher and lower, I would say. Okay.
Yeah, but still, good movie.
Yeah, nevertheless. All right. So what did you guys think of it? Email us at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. We actually have an email right here from one of our listeners. So excuse me while I go in. I got to reach over and grab the bag. It's got 1 letter in it, so let's do this.
Bale's here.
Speaking of the people that help us out at patreon.com/HMP, here's one of them, Maria from upstate New York. Hi, guys. Just saw The Incredibles 2 with my little guy. I thought it was fantastic. The story moved along very well. When Jack's powers were revealed, I thought to myself, oh, my God, we can finally see all of Jack's powers. I'm a huge Incredible fan, even though I was older, I think around 18 when the movie first came out, and I still love it. It was a great experience to bring my 6-year-old little guy to see this movie. He really liked it, though he thought it was funny, and he loved the, quote, parts with the baby. There are a few scenes that did use the prolonged strobe light effect, so people are sensitive to that sort of thing. Use caution. Spoilers, up until it was revealed who the actual villain was, I honestly thought it was Bob Odenkirk's character who was going to turn out to be the villain. What did you guys think? Also, do you think we'll round it out with this, guys. Also, do you think that they will do a 3rd movie and make this thing a trilogy? I hope if they do, I won't be in my 50s when they get around to it. Keep up the great work. Peace, Maria from upstate New York. So we'll close it out, guys. Do you think we're going to get a 3? I mean, obviously the joke, as Bruce has made a couple times, is like, when we're all 80, they'll do another one. But do you think that with the success
I'm still waiting on
this,
American Splendor 2, so I can't distract myself with Incredibles 3.
If they're going to do it, the answer is if they're going to do it, they should do it pretty quickly, because when you see Craig T. Nelson before the movie starts, his voice is starting to get old manny.
He's getting there.
And so, if they're going to make another one of these, they can't wait very long if they want to keep the same voice talent.
And I mean, and heck, the kid itself changed. And Sean, you saw him closer than we did. Did the Dash voice? It seemed to me like they're pretty darn similar.
It's sounding. The same. It is the exact same.
But it's a different kid, yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you it's the same. He sounds exactly the same.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Sally's voice on Peanuts didn't change in 60 years. I think they can do some animation magic.
I don't know. Anyways, but that is it, everybody. What are we doing next week? That's right. Mr. Justice himself is hitting the streets again. Luke Cage is back for season 2, and we'll be covering the first half of that come next week's episode. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet, sir?
I'm all over the place. You can check at Heroes and Villains. Still working on that Gorilla Grodd episode. And I'll be in Canada next week. So if anybody wants to see me, just come say hi in Canada. I'm doing a couple of panels, a live podcast for Chubby Wizard. So just make sure to look for me next weekend, Saturday and Sunday in Canada.
Just specifically anywhere in the country you want to tell them? That's a big country there.
It's Canada, near a lake.
Fair enough. Canada. Just go to Canada and just go, where's the Bruce Leslie at, please? And then they'll just point you in the general
vicinity. Ask the guy in the mounted police uniform on the back of the horse. You say, pardon me, sir, where's Canada? And he'll show you.
Very good. Mr. Keenan?
You can find me at Preacher Podcast, available on iTunes. You can find me at Hero Movie Sean on Twitter, and you can find me at dogeatpod.com.
And he'd mentioned it in the past, and while I don't dare you to keep up with every single episode of the Film Find, but I got a Film Find email here, and I want to read it out because it concerns you, young man. Hey, you. Hey, fellas, I just saw American Animals, and I wanted to say that I'm so proud of Sean for being a part of such an extraordinary film. I hope other listeners have a chance to see it and enjoy it as much as I did. It's terrific. And that's
fantastic.
That's from Tim.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Tim. I really liked working on that movie, and you never know with those smaller budget movies what it's going to be like. And basically, with a few exceptions, everyone who's seen it is like, this is a really solid movie, and I can't wait to see it because it comes to Charlotte next week.
I'm still trying to figure out because I have not the places that would play it haven't updated yet.
It looks so. It just from the trailer alone, it just looks so good.
Yeah, so I'm excited when it does happen. So, but check that out. It's playing at across the country right now. Check your local listings. That's American Animal. And, of course, my other podcast, The Film Find, at thefilmfind.com, and new releases and all that kind of good jazz. So check all that good stuff out. Preacher coming back in just a little over a week, everybody. So check all that stuff out. That is it. Join us next week for the first half of Luke Cage Season 2 on Netflix. For Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie. Goodbye, Commodore.
All right, gents, that was a good one, eh?
Yeah.
Thanks,
Hey, we're getting ready for Canada.
I got to get back to the dinner party that I have neglected for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
All right.
I think I have to get off of here too, man.
All right,
Bye,
see you guys.
guys.
Adios.